Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch!
Hi, and welcome back to Blade & Sorcery Mods. I am Illithid, and this is a series where I talk about some of the mods that I've been playing with recently. I'll go over the main details and features of each mod, and how they affected my personal playing experience. Today's date is December 17th. Sorry, hold on just a second. Today's date is December 17th, 2023, and I'm playing the PC version on U12.3. The chapter timestamps, along with the links to each mod featured in this video, can be found in the description below. Without further delay, let's get started. FromSoftware Parry by ChilioX allows you to expose your enemies to a counterattack after successfully parrying their attacks. To trigger this mechanic, you must meet the minimum velocity requirement that's set in the mod settings. The minimum velocity is the speed that your weapon or shield needs to be traveling at before it meets your enemy's weapon. There are 4 different versions to pick from: posture, slowed, stagger, and tiered. You can configure just about anything from the in-game mod menu, from disabling and enabling the mechanic on the fly, making it to where only shields can trigger a parry, to how each parry affects the enemies. The mod also includes parry sounds from various FromSoftware games that you can set for each version, or you can even add your own custom sound by dropping an MP3 file in the mod folder.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I am gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna fucking die!
There's already an MP3 file included with the mod, so you'll either have to delete it or make sure that the file that you add comes before it when sorted alphabetically. Let's look at each parry now. The first one is posture. It's influenced by the posture system in Sekiro, but this one doesn't rely on a meter. Instead, you must parry an enemy a set number of times. What's cool about this is that it actually tracks the number of parries for each individual enemy. That number can be set in the posture section of this mod's configuration menu, along with the velocity requirement for each parry to count. When you meet both requirements, the mechanic will trigger and your enemy will fall prone. The slow version is influenced by the parry from Dark Souls 1, and is triggered by only a velocity requirement. This one will slow the enemy for a set amount of time that's configurable in the slowed section of the mod menu. The slow percentage can also be configured there as well. Be aware that this version only slows your enemies, it doesn't disrupt them. So unless you do something to interrupt their current action, they're going to continue that action once the slow expires. The next one is staggered, and it comes from Dark Souls 2. This one is also only triggered by a velocity requirement. The effects are similar to the posture version, but instead of customizing how many parries you have to perform, you can customize the time between the parry and when the enemy falls prone. And last but not least, the tiered version, which lets you perform both the slowed and the staggered version depending on the velocity of your parry. By default, the slowed version has a lower velocity requirement than stagger, but you're able to modify that in the mod menu in the tiered section. If you set both to the same velocity requirement, then the stagger seems to take precedence from what I've noticed. FromSoftware Parry is an excellent mod that rewards defensive play and also adds options to offensive play. Everything worked as intended for me, and I would definitely recommend giving it a try if you haven't already. Our next mod today is called Dashing Mod by Nicotary. As the name implies, it gives you the ability to, well, dash. Kind of. What this mod actually does is change some of the properties around your movement while you're airborne, most noticeably, the speed. You can modify the speed by changing the locomotion airspeed value in the JSON files located in the mod folder. Just make sure you're editing the one that matches your character's sex. If you do choose to increase the speed, I would suggest staying under 1. If you're curious where I landed, I'm over here. The Citadel map is all the way over there. Before I continue, I want to state that I do understand that the increased air movement does fit the definition of the word dash, but whenever I hear dash used in the context of a video game, I picture a quick, short distance movement used to either evade an attack or get into position. With that being said, when I say dash going forward, that's what I'm referring to. So with this mod, you can emulate a dash if you do small jumps while moving. And once you get used to it, it can be really fun to dominate the battlefield with the increased mobility. It really helps prevent getting surrounded by enemies, and it can be satisfying to dodge an enemy's attack and then come back with a counter attack. Because it increases your air movement speed, be mindful whenever you're running off ledges, going downstairs, or doing anything that puts your character in an airborne state. Or you could embrace it and turn Blade and Sorcery into Quake. The mod author noted that this mod will not work with other mods that also affect the player character. And that's due to some of those other mods also using a JSON file to modify values of the player character. Depending on the load order of the mods, it can result in the values modified by this mod being overwritten by the values from another mod, or vice versa. Overall, dashing mod can be fun. The name is kind of misleading though in my opinion. And to be honest, I was disappointed after finding out that it wasn't an actual dash, but I did have fun after adapting to it. I think it helps to understand what this mod actually does to set player expectations. Perhaps one day we'll have some sort of dash or evade action. But until then, this is probably the closest we're gonna get. Now that we have parries and increased mobility from dashing, we're basically unstoppable. None of the enemies in this game can stand a chance. Is that boss music? Oh! Oh.
What you say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did. What you say? That it's all for the best.
Hand of Malenia by Enkiusi adds several things to Blade and Sorcery that relate to the Elden Ring boss Malenia of Mikola. It includes a 6-piece armor set, a weapon, and a single enemy wave featuring Malenia herself. The items can be found in the added Souls-like category in the Armory book. The armor set is only equipable to female characters by default. Some of the pieces, as you'll see in a second, make body parts invisible, but all of that is mostly covered up whenever you equip the entire set. The set includes Malenia's arms, legs, dress, hair, helmet, and her cape. If you're curious why the hair makes you go bald, it's because your character's hair will normally clip through the helmet, so it makes things look neater. And if you're curious what it looks like on male characters, it seems like only the hair, helmet, and capes are rigged for both male and female. But aside from that, all pieces of the set look really good. The weapon that it adds is called Hand of Malenia, and it's a very long curved sword with inscriptions on either side of the blade. The textures and the material on this are just remarkable. This is probably one of the best looking mod weapons that I've seen in a while. So, how does it perform? To be frank, it feels like using a foam pool noodle like a sword because of the length and the light weight. It can only be gripped with one hand at the tang, and because it's so light, you can easily dual wield these guys. It worked out for me because I had a lot more fun using it like an anime protagonist than I did as a regular swordsman. I do understand that it was made like this to work with a Malenia enemy, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. Also, be careful if you throw it, because it's probably going to end up on the outside of the map or on the roof somewhere. Now, onto the part that we've all been waiting for, the enemy wave. Are you ready to see the hardest boss enemy in Blade and Sorcery? The one that's designed after the hardest boss in Elden Ring? The boss that has slain over 300 million tarnished as of March 2023? The boss that... Oh. So this wave features an enemy character that has 10,000 HP and a custom AI brain. And to top it off, she's 8 foot 4 inches. She can be a challenge to fight, and I did have a lot of fun, but once you're able to disarm her, it's over. The mod author stated that Malenia dies upon spawning if you have the internals mod, which is an amazing combat mod that I talked about in episode 14, but that's due to the default setting that multiplies the enemy's HP by 10. Through some experimentation, I found that the highest HP an enemy could have is somewhere between 35,000 and 40,000. So if you have internals or any other mod that inflates enemy HP, just make sure it stays under 35,000 to be safe. This is a pretty cool mod given the limitations of Blade and Sorcery enemies. All of the items look great, and the custom boss enemy is a fun addition. Overall, Hand of Malenia is worth checking out at least once. What? And that is it for this episode. This video's shoutout goes to the Red Fish, username redfish651. Thank you for your support, and I hope that your snacks are forever delicious and enjoyable. Last time, I asked you guys about a game improvement that you would make to Blade and Sorcery, to which the Red Fish, and many of you, responded with the AI, to which I agree. Smarter and more challenging enemies would be great. However, what I would like even more are new enemy attacks to spice things up. Not just generic attacks, but some defensive attacks. Attacks with quick recovery, maybe a feint, or attacks that just deal a lot of damage. I know that creating these animations will take time, and the addition of new attacks will also increase the workload of tuning the AI, but I'm optimistic that Warp Frog will do an awesome job. The question that I have for you this time is, what does your ideal holiday break or vacation look like? The holidays are coming up soon, so I'm curious how you guys like to spend whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. Let me know in the comments, and you'll have a chance to get a shout out in the next video. With that, I want to thank you for watching, and also thank everyone that engaged with the previous video. I hope all of you have a fantastic holiday. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please consider leaving a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to see more content from me. See you next time.